Beautiful, isn't it? You know, I don't know what it is, but sometimes when I'm out walking these ranges, I feel like I could just break into a song. I'll spare you that little bit of discomfort. In Alberta, vast tracts of land are classified as rangeland. More than 16 million acres, some folks say. Now, I don't imagine too many Albertans give too much thought to rangelands, and I'll bet if you asked, some would say that these lands are just a hair shy of being wasteland. Well, nothing could be further from the truth. Rangelands are a tremendous resource. They've sustained Alberta's livestock for decades and currently provide up to 30% of our province's forage requirements. But that's not all. Rangelands are a source of water, a source of gas, oil, and minerals, a source of wood. They also provide food and habitats for fish and wildlife. And for many people, they're a source of recreation, even if all they do is look at them as they drive by in a car, truck, or bus.
I look at range as being a renewable resource that it's good for, which can't be used for cultivating practices, but can be used to develop beef. And I also see range as being a good area for wildlife and good tourism resort as well.
I consider the rangeland a way to make a living. Producing beef out of marginal land for the population. Use it, not abuse it, and pass it on to the next generation in good condition. I got my heart into the land.
Range management and the application of proper range management practices and principles is so very important to sustainable production of fish and wildlife.
So rangelands need to be protected. Now that doesn't mean they shouldn't be grazed, but what it does mean is they shouldn't be overgrazed. Overgrazing damages the land, reduces its productivity. The water quality suffers, so does the wildlife. The land's value for other uses drops as well. For the rancher, protecting rangeland means range management. Range management is a common-sense approach to grazing that helps ranchers maintain, restore, and enhance the productivity of their rangelands. Productive rangelands depend on healthy, vigorous plants, plants that protect the soil. On northern ranges, that means grasses, forbs, the broadleaf plants, and shrubs like ricegrass, peavine, and cranberry. These plants are an excellent source of forage. In some areas, forbs and shrubs provide most of the grazing. Managing these forage plants effectively maintains the productivity and potential of these lands now and for years to come, no matter what the weather, wet or dry. For the rancher, that's something to bank on. But mismanaging these plants means higher costs, unstable yields, and less animal production, and that means less profit. Mismanaging these plants also damages the soil, which means sustainability can't happen. One way to mismanage these plants is to graze them early, in the spring, like April or May, when their energy reserves are low. This puts a tremendous amount of stress on the plants, something they may not recover from, even if they're rested for the remainder of the season. Another way to mismanage these plants is to graze them heavily. Heavy grazing takes too much growth, leaving little to feed the roots. As the roots suffer, so do the plants. Eventually, they'll die. Sure, there will be others to replace them. Nature just hates a vacuum. But the replacement plants won't provide as much forage for your livestock. They can't sustain nor hold the soil together as well. On tame pastures, wind and water erosion can result. In dry years, the replacement plants will produce even less forage. The results are an inconsistent forage base and higher costs. Grazing reduces plant cover, oftentimes called litter or carryover, and heavy grazing reduces a lot of it. Removing more than 50% of the cover diminishes the quality and quantity of next year's plants. In addition, any moisture that falls is more likely to run off and less likely to soak into the ground, where it's needed most. A third way to mismanage these plants is to graze them frequently. Little rest between grazing leaves no time for the plants to recover. What regrowth there is clipped well before it can establish itself. This, too, taxes the roots of the plants to the point where they'll eventually die out.
We like to maintain a high percentage of carryover, and the value in it is it holds snow. You don't get a quick runoff in the spring. Also, the plants shade the ground, retain the moisture, and that dead plant in turn turns into a fiber. It goes into the soil and builds your soil.
You don't want to chew your grass right down to the bare roots, or it has no reserve left to come back for that year or the following year.
What I've noticed over the years is wherever we leave the most grass, wherever we have the best growth from the previous year, is also where we'll have the best growth the following year.
I think overgrazing doesn't work. Short-term gain and long-term suffering. You end up with a lot of weeds. You go driving down the road and you can see where people have overgrazed, set-stocked, and there's Canada thistle, there's all kinds of weeds growing in there, and the rest of the grass is mowed right down like it's a golf course. And if you were to dig up the soil, you find that the roots are all right close to the top. If it rains heavy, the water runs off because the ground is so hard and tight that the water runs off instead of going in. Overgrazing is not the thing to do.
So here in northern Alberta, range management means reducing the stresses that come from grazing too early, too much, and too often. But before anyone can embark on a range management program, they need to know their fields, know the condition they're already in, whether poor to fair or good to excellent.